Hi, I'm Bob Niedermeyer, and I'm here today to talk to you about the science behind Holganix, specifically about our product Holganix Bloom and Flowers. Again, I am Dr. Bob Niedermeyer, and this is my contact information. I'll give this to you again at the end of the presentation. Our agenda today will be to discuss Flower Science 101, or an introduction to flower science and how plants and flowers interact with microorganisms. We'll talk about our new product, Holganix Bloom, and we'll talk about applying Holganix Bloom. And then we'll have time at the end of the presentation to do questions and answers. I don't know if anybody's using Holganix Bloom on flowers, but this red flower amongst that sea of yellow flowers is kind of an indication that Holganix Bloom is a brand new product. This is our first summer selling the product, so I'm sure that many of you are not current users. So a little bit about flower science below the soil. As you know, plants grow in the soil, and the plant roots are in the soil. This space, this term called the rhizosphere, that's the space in the soil that includes the soil and the surrounding plant roots, and also the microorganisms that grow in the soil in association with plant roots. Plant roots are responsible or are in fact 24 to 30% of the total plant dry weight. So if you pull a plant out by the roots and cut the plant into roots and above ground parts and dried them and weighed them, the roots would account for 24 to 30% of that weight. These roots are responsible for supporting the plant in the soil, including the above ground parts, and for providing the roots and the above ground parts with water and nutrients. The roots, in return, actually secrete substances into the soil. These substances include organic acids, sugars, polysaccharides, enzymes, proteins, and amino acids. One of the functions of these excrements is to attract beneficial microorganisms. Plant roots are often called the donut shop of the soil. Why? Because these plant roots are excreting food and attractive substances to microorganisms. They also help to balance the pH of the soil. Organic acids secreted by the plant, in fact, create a more acid environment around the roots than would already have been there. So all this is set up by the plants, one, to feed the organisms, but also to select organisms specific to the plant's needs. So, which leads us to the question, why do microorganisms rock? Well, they do several things for the plant. One thing they do is they protect the plant from pathogens. Some of these microorganisms are, in fact, natural enemies of plant pathogens and destroy them. Others, although not enemies, provide a protective barrier in the soil to the roots and protecting them from intrusion by pathogens. Some of these microorganisms create nitrogen in a usable form and also phosphorus in a usable form for plant uptake. A scientific term for this is just NUE, or nitrogen use efficiency. And a third area that you probably haven't thought about very much is some of these microorganisms, in fact, influence plant behavior. And they do this by excreting enzymes, which are taken up by plant roots and which cause the plants to perform certain functions. Again, this is why the plant has, in fact, attracted or selected these microorganisms, so that they will be there to help the plant perform its functions. It's really very interesting what's going on. It's a very dynamic behavior between microorganisms and the plant itself. It's a good time to stop here that we discussed the rhizosphere and see if there are any questions. Not being any questions, we're going to go on and we're going to talk about what's going on above the soil. A new term for many of you, I'm sure, will be phyllosphere. This phyllosphere is all the surface area on a plant above the soil. So the stems, the leaves, the flowers, buds, everything that's above the soil is part of the phytosphere. The other part of the phytosphere is those microorganisms that live on the plant surfaces above the soil. So there's not an area of the plant above the soil that does not have bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms on it. This is very similar to having bacteria on your skin. It's just a normal function of living on the earth. Uh, but again, it's a dynamic relationship between the plant and the organisms that are in the phytosphere. Just a primer here on the parts of a flower. Many of you are quite familiar with this, but the flower sits on the top of a stem, and it consists of petals, stigma, the male part of the flower, and the pistil, the female part of the flower. And the whole purpose of the flower, other than to entertain us with bright colors, is to produce seeds for the reproduction of the plant. But again, there's this dynamic relationship existing between microorganisms and the plant in the phytosphere. Again, as I talked about, just like the roots, the above ground parts of the plant secrete organic acids, sugars, polysaccharides, enzymes, proteins, and amino acids. And these are foodstuffs that do attract microorganisms. And they attract microorganisms selectively because although they're just blowing around in the air and landing on the plant, the ones that grow are the ones that are attracted to the food sources that the plant has secreted. And the pH of that environment is also affected by the organic acids that are secreted by the plant. So just quickly, are there any questions about the phytosphere? Okay, being none, let's go on and talk about our product, Holganix Bloom. So what's in our product? What's in the jug? Holganix Bloom is a concentrated compost tea. It's selected specifically to promote flowering. The ingredients in the product favor bacteria over fungi. That's to say, we have more bacteria than fungi in this product than we have in our other Holganix products. Why have we done this? Well, we want to prevent damping off so that the early seedlings or new transplants aren't affected with bacteria and fungi that would cause rotting of the plant. What kind of benefits are we looking for with Holganix Bloom? The microorganisms in Holganix Bloom provide a beneficial relationship. That is, they secrete substances, probably mostly enzymes, that promote plant behavior that will go on and promote flowering. Specifically, they promote bud initiation, bud growth or differentiation, flower initiation, flowering size, and color intensity. And I'd like to show you some examples of that. These are impatiens that were grown at our research center in Connecticut, or rather in Pennsylvania. And the flowers on the left were treated with Holganix. The flowers on the right were not. And you can see, obviously, that they have. These pictures were taken on the same day, and the impatiens treated with Holganix are greener, lusher, produced more flowers. Another look at this at a different time, different day. The flowers on the right which were not treated with Holganix, have caught up. They are flowering, but again, the color of the plants are more green, and the intensity of the flowers are brighter on the plants that were treated with Holganix. These are zinnias that were treated with Holganix on the right, not treated on the left. And again, you can see more flowers, bigger flowers, and a higher intensity of color. And these are vinca that were treated with Holganix. The plant on the top is a plant that was treated with Holganix. The plant on the bottom was not treated with Holganix. And in this case, again, the flower is bigger and more intense pink. So do you have any questions about the effects of Holganix? Okay, let's go on. So how do we apply Holganix bloom? First of all, before we can talk about applying it, we need to remind you that Holganix products need to be stored in a cool environment. So we do provide a Holganix refrigerator to store the product, and you will be storing it at a temperature between 34 and 44 degrees. And this will ensure the freshness of the product. So when you're ready to apply, your first application will be 10 ounces of Holganix per 1,000 square feet. And when you make your solution, you're going to spray the plants to runoff, completely drenching the plants and also the soil that the plants are growing in. So after you plant the flowers, within the first 7 days following planting, you're going to want to make the treatment. In order to get the right dilution, you're going to combine 2.2 2 1/4 gallons of bloom with 200 gallons of water. And subsequent applications will be at 3 1/3 ounce of Holganix bloom per 1,000 square feet. And in that case, you're going to mix a solution of 3/4 gallons of Holganix with 200 gallons of water. And again, you're going to be spraying plants to run off and drenching the soil that the plants are growing in. It's also a good practice to apply a fertilizer in combination with bloom. In this case, we recommend 1/8 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet, and some suggested fertilizers would be 20-20-20 or 30-00. So that was a brief introduction to Holganix bloom, and I'd be glad to entertain any questions that you might have. Having not asked questions, again, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have in the future. And there's a telephone number to call me. That's 866-56-EARTH. Or you can contact me by email at rniedermeyer, that's NEIDERMYER, at Holganix.com. It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys today. I hope you'll try our product, and I hope you'll have great results. Have a good day. Goodbye.